What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Welcome, welcome, welcome to everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come in, like, share. Everyone, like, share. I'm so excited. Today is my last conversation for season one. I've been talking about this panel, and every time I talk about the panel, another topic on mental health comes into the picture. So I've been doing this for almost 2.5 months with season one. So I'm so excited that I have a panel of people from every conversation that we've had to come back and for us to have a conversation overall, do a wrap up on this season, and just hopefully something that's said tonight will inspire somebody, will help somebody to get out there and talk and continue to talk about mental health. So, the Java for tonight is amaretto coffee. Basically, I got coffee with amaretto cream. So I kept it simple, but amaretto is my favorite cream. So if you're out there and because it's hard to find sometimes. So if you got amaretto, send me a thing or two. All right. Yeah, just putting that plug out there. All right. So I'm so glad to be able to welcome back some of the guests I've had over this season to this panel. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. I'm going to go back in time and bring up some stuff that was said. I kind of took a whole bunch of notes on what was said in previous conversations. So, definitely happy to have back the Jacksons, to have um, who else? We got Kim back. We got Miss Tammy Walker back. We got my sis back, Labby. We got everyone back. We got Miss Sheila that's coming in for the first time. She was actually supposed to be on with the women. However, she had some communication problems, but I told her that I would try to get her back on, and she was able to get back on. So, welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We might have some more people joining, but welcome.
Thank you.
How's everybody doing?
Awesome.
Doing great.
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome, awesome.
All right.
Very
So,
blessed.
amen. Amen. So, I'm going to just say some things, and then we're gonna get into the conversation. Um, but it was a lot of stuff I jotted down. I just went back because if y'all didn't know, I'm a note taker, so I was taking notes every conversation. So a lot of stuff stuck out to me. So we're gonna touch on a lot of stuff tonight. So cherish life, live life, resiliency, hiding emotions, communication, your pride, being the head of the household, making mistakes, the triggers, loving yourself, boundaries, um, loving first, serving first, emotion shown, um, relearning parenting, prioritize yourself, self care, purpose, gratitude, past hurt, putting a band aid on something, broken yourself, trying to help people, kids and mental health, triggers in the jail. And I circled this: protect your peace. Protect
Whoa.
your peace. And I circled that because it's so many things going on in the world. If y'all don't know, they just had a shooting in North Carolina,
Hmm.
um, and it's like every day the things around you, it's hard to protect your peace. So I
Hmm.
want to start right there first because that plays a part in your mental health. It plays a big part in your mental health of how do you protect your peace when if you married, not so let me put this disclaimer out there. I'm not saying that if you married that you don't have peace in the household. I gotta put that out there because I don't want nobody to be like, well, dang, Kel, you just went on as this. No, because I want to be married myself one day. I know that there's things that go on, but what I'm saying is, how do you protect your peace when you're married, you got kids, you got a job, you got friends, you got family, all this around you. How do you protect your peace? That's why I want to start it tonight. How do you protect your peace? Anybody can go. How
Well,
you protect
Kevin,
your
I would
peace?
love to jump on this. You actually said the word earlier. It's boundaries. Regardless if you're married, you're a parent, work, any of that, you were still you prior to being married, prior to being a parent, any of that. And you still have to maintain those boundaries because even within that family context, you are two individuals that chose to spend time and space together. You are not as one. You're not you're not a one entity. You're two individuals. So boundaries are still very, very important, and having time to self is very important. A practice that we do in my household, and those that I work with in my social work practice, we engage in 30 minutes of self-care daily. And that 30 minutes, you're not a mom, dad, sister, brother, cousin, co-worker, friend. You are you. And then 30 minutes are for you. I don't care if it's laying back in the tub, listening to music, or turning upside down and tickling your toes on the ceiling. Whatever brings you peace, brings you that centeredness, that grounding, that calmness, that clarity for 30 minutes every day. That self-care is very important. And that's part of what keeps your peace, is setting those boundaries, communicating with your loved ones or coworkers or whatever the case may be, that these are my 30 minutes. And at this time, everything is off limits. I am off limits. All access to me is off limits for these 30 minutes.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
I like to chime in and piggyback on that and say, knowing what your safe place is. So in setting those boundaries, knowing your safe place, because people in dealing with those different situations, whether you have two people in the household, whether it's just, like she said, single parenting with your children, or it's just you in your singleness, knowing your safe place, especially when you are dealing with mental issues or mental distress, you can mentally be in a harmful place, but knowing how to pull yourself back with that self-care, that self-love, pulling yourself away from people, whether it be friends, family, whomever, finding that safe place for you where you find comfort and peace in that is something that we also need in those boundaries.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I would like to say something, Kevin. Also, although I'm not married, but I would definitely have to agree with what the other young lady said, that in order for you to, like, I'm not married, but if I were married or did have a significant other, I would want to make sure that that is a person, or that is an individual, that if I am having those days, or if I am having those trying times within my life, that is somebody that I can go and speak my piece, to somebody that I can have that comfort and feel comfortable, speaking with about whatever may be going on, within my life at that particular time. So definitely protect your peace.
Okay. Anybody else? All right.
Well, I'll chime in just a little bit. My wife and I, we have a little bit different dynamic than probably like the average couple, because we work together. So we are together every day, majority of the time. So probably maybe the average couple, they try to find time to spend with each other. Because we work together, we have our times where we have our space. And when you're talking about with boundary lines, I mean, we definitely try to do our best not to cross those lines. For example, home is home and work is work. People always ask, how y'all work together? we simply tell them that all the time. And that's where we keep our peace. But both of us just try to be respectful as possible because we do have a 1-year-old as well. So when we do come home, we kind of take turns, if not together, being with her, taking care of her needs, but making sure we be conscious of what the other person is feeling. So I'm like, okay, maybe the wife just need some time alone, so I'll get the baby, and she'll go watch her shows or unwind or take a hot bath, with the counters on, or vice versa. She see me, so she'll take the baby, different things like that. So that respect piece is definitely big for us, and then just being conscious of each other's needs all the time. So yeah.
Okay. Anybody else want to talk on that? All right. So I'm gonna move on to self-care. Now, all right. So when we talk about self-care, I look at self-care as, man, like going out, don't judge me, but going out, getting a drink or two, going out somewhere, getting a pedicure, manicure, getting a massage, self-care, like really making sure that you're good, because that tension sometimes, woo, it can get the best of you, and it can make you feel a certain way. Now, I'm I be the first person to say that I don't practice this enough, and that leads to me going off on people that probably don't deserve it. But again, at the end of the day, I realize that the more self care you do, whether it's even just locking yourself in a room and watching a movie, whether it's just going out and doing something that you enjoy, taking your mind off of the day's work. A lot of people say it's hard because you got family, you got this, you got that. But the thing is, going back to protect your peace and self care, I look at it that you have to come into a place where you have to be able to have that time for yourself to re-energize yourself. I said this on some of the shows, the conversations prior to. I said, how can you pour into someone, but you have nothing to give? And so, if you don't have anything to give, how can you pour into somebody? So, self care is important. So let's talk about self care. How many of y'all actually do self care, and it's important to y'all? Let's talk on that.
As soon as this over with, that self-care is gonna start.
I know that's right.
Yes.
So I have a system of self-care, and it's actually one is on the financial side. It is important that you set aside funds out of your check. You always pay yourself first when you get paid. That's a self-care by itself, is that you pay yourself first when you get paid. And that also allows you the room to engage in some of these self-care activities that may take money there. What I did was I wrote down 31 different things that I could do for self-care. Anything from reading a book to going to the beach to going out to have a drink, just 31 different things. And I cut them up and I have them in a mason jar. I will shake it and I'll draw one out. And that's what I'm going to do for self-care. So it allows for like this sense of like surprise. So that's a lot of fun. What am I going to do for self-care? But it doesn't create a monotony of the same thing over and over again. And as I use them, I put them into the other jar. And when I get through them, we start back over. But I also have that little bucket of finance, my self-care finances. So if I want to go get my hair and nails and feet done for self-care, I'm not dipping into busy money to do so. So that's one of the self-care
Okay. My brother, Greg, Maestro. Tell me about it, sir. I know you do self-care. I know
I'm not
you do
bad.
self-care. Know you a long time.
Uh, indeed, I really believe though that for me, self care is like a daily thing, right? So it's like you're actually, as one of my sisters just said, that her self care is going to start as soon as this is over. Like you're in the midst of my scheduled self care right now. It's
Oh, I'm
so
sorry.
it's oh no, you're my brother, so we make those as everybody else on the panel. We know we've paused for this moment right now, but I had to learn that, and I think we talked about this before, Kevin. Give a short synopsis of it. When I was managing this Verizon, I was doing my scheduling, and I noticed I was like, if I'm gonna have any time for myself, once I highlighted all the time I had to dedicate to work, all the time I had to dedicate to after school to go do things with my daughter, right? And then it showed me how much little time was actually left to build myself, to take, even though all those different activities are a part of being me, but there are other aspects like my rest, like my reading a book, my developing my skill set of music, my whatever gives me my meditations, my yoga, all that stuff has to be built in, and it's so you don't wait to implode and then explode. It's just like every day I'm building this person. So if you come to me and say, hey, can we go do this, I immediately know if it's part of my purpose. Is this thing going to add to me or take from me? And in the time slot that you're asking me to do it, is it more important than what I already have planned for my future self? So building that kind of thing helps me to say no, right? And then and then I can, and you know how some of us are. We don't like to be told no, and a lot of us who are very affable and very people kind of persons, we sometimes overextend ourselves because we don't say no, and that's probably the worst unself care we could do to each other. Like overextending ourselves to help someone else. Which we should all learn not to do. Amen, Kevin.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Church.
Amen. All right. Anybody else when we talk about self-care? All right. So man, Greg said something. He said he didn't say a lot, but he said a lot. And I wrote this word down because I think that's a problem for me. Rest, sleep. Like sleep messes with your mental health. If you don't get, I know for me, if I get 2 hours of sleep, don't talk to me until after 12
Let's
because
talk about why
I
you
don't.
just getting 2 hours of sleep.
Huh?
Let's talk about why you getting 2 hours of sleep.
Oh, that's man. How much time you got?
He doesn't say no. In simple words,
Yes.
he doesn't know how to
Yes.
say no.
Yes.
And that's what
Yes.
Greg just said. That was wonderful, is learning to say no.
Yes. And that's what I'm trying to practice. And it's crazy. The Jacksons might remember this. Keisha from Potter's House when we were going through ministry school, and I remember her saying this to me. She said, "Well, she was talking to our whole class, and she said, hey, it's okay to say no.' And in my mind, I was like, but it's not. But I had to stand up and say I have a problem when it comes to saying no, and it's not so much pleasing people. I've always been that person to want to help people. Like that's just me and who I am. But at the end of the day, I've realized that starts to affect my mental health because I don't get rest. I don't I might not eat that day. I might, or if I do eat, it's late at night, which causes me like all these other things. And so I'm realizing that, and just that word alone is a part of self-care. So I just wanted to say that. But what I wanted to bring up next is um, resilience. Um, when it comes to mental health, and I'll say this, and then I'll let the panel talk. When it comes to resilience and being able to come back from something, again, I gave my testimony when I started this podcast back in May, and I remember talking about how resilient I was to come back from being down. And KJ knows more than most people, because I call him my therapist, because he would be the person that I would call when I was going through, and everything that I went through when my mom passed to when my dad passed. Like, it was so much, and I thought that at some point that I was done. I thought that I was at the end of my road. And I remember, and I've talked about this, so I'm not ashamed to talk about it. When I was in a inpatient ward, in a psych ward, and I remember KJ coming up there to see me, and he sat with me for a couple of hours, and I remember, listening to what he had to say, and then listening to what some other brothers from the church had to say, and it made me realize that in spite of myself, looking at myself and looking at the fact that I felt like this was rock bottom, and now I look at where I'm at now. It's a testimony, but it's a testament to knowing that I'm resilient. And anybody that really wants to fight for their life, fight for being seen and not unseen. If y'all catch what I mean by that, but it made me realize a lot about myself. I still have a long ways to go, but I'm thankful for the journey, because God has shown me so much on this journey of being able to be resilient. So, and that's why I wanted to do this show, and that's why I want to do this season on mental health, because it's very important to me, because I went through this big journey of 7 years of mental health, and just the ups and downs, and trying to commit suicide, and didn't know if today was my last day. But I'm thankful for people. I'm thankful for all of you all that's on this panel, because in some way you all have helped me through my journey. And so, how do you look at resiliency when it comes to mental health? Larry, hey, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I'm gonna start with you. I want you to say something.
Okay, what you want me to say? I always got something to say.
Yeah, I know. That's why I want to start with you. Hey,
Well,
so when we talk about resiliency, what does that look like to you when we talk about resiliency and mental health? What does that look like to you?
well, I feel like we all go through things, and a lot of times we don't want to talk to people about it, and you feel silent. But I feel like you go through things, and once you get through them, you feel like hey, I can get through this. I can get through anything. And a lot of times we always think, oh, it's so bad, but it could always be worse. And it's always not as bad as some other stuff. So,
So you worked at the prison before, right?
yes, I worked at a jail.
Okay. So how did you see any of those inmates, like, at the time? Did you see any of them come up in that resiliency, whatever they have faced while you was there?
Well, I saw a few people that honestly knew what they had done was wrong or whatever. And then I saw a lot of other people like he already told me he had already done 40 years, like the 60 or 70 that he got added to that was nothing. And I'm just like, wow. And I mean, I don't know. I feel like a lot of things that people go through, it's undiscussed issues and things that they may have went through as a child and felt like they didn't have anybody to talk to, anybody to go to that they could really confide in and talk about it. Because I mean, like I said, we're from the country. Like it's still secrets we don't know about. Like keeping it real. But you go through things, you grow through things, and you live.
You live to see another day.
You live to see another day, Kevin. That part.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, I had to take that line from Friday.
But
All
yeah.
right. Okay, Roger that. Anybody else? Resilience. What does resilience look like to you? What does it mean to you?
Can I chime in on this one right quick? I want to say, as far as resilience, we all face difficult times that seems much more difficult than we can truly bear. But the saying is, God won't put any more on you than you can bear. And if you stand firm and trust in His word and know that He has your back, I mean, the path has already been paved for you. You just have to trust Him and stand strong and stand firm on His word and know that He's going to cover you in the midst of whatever it is that you are going through. And when I teach when I do my life coaching with people, I've shared with people to look at themselves as a palm tree. Palm trees withstand a lot of bumps and bruises. You put a palm tree in the midst of a hurricane, no matter how strong those winds may blow, and you look at those winds like life situations you face, no matter how heavy those winds get, how hard that rain comes down, no matter what knocks you down, that tree still stands. It may not stand up straight through those trying times. It may even bend, but when that light shines, because there's a brighter day ahead, it stands right back up again. So that's how we have to look at ourselves, like that palm tree, no matter how life hits us and no matter how challenging it may get. Because again, I don't say hard, and I teach my people that I don't say hard, because in my eyes, I keep repeating to myself, nothing is too hard for God, because we have to look at Jesus. He carried the cross. He went through a whole lot of things that we say is, oh, that's too hard for us. Oh, I went through this. And we all have our own battle and, feat that we face. But when you think on the things that somebody else sacrificed for us that was way worse, you have to sometimes take a step back and kind of press forward, because weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning.
Okay. Anybody else?
Hey, Kevin, I do want to comment on this, and this is not something I think I've ever really discussed with anybody that that wasn't there at this time in my life. But there was a point just a few years back. I was going through it so bad, and I was so depressed that every night for a little over a month, I went to sleep looking at the barrel of my weapon, and I had to force myself to look at the glass half full, not half empty, to find a reason not to pull that trigger. And when I found my reasoning, and I made it in my mind that I was going to survive this, I was going to beat this, every day I turned that barrel away from me until it faced the other way. And from that day to this day, that's what resiliency means to me, is that I'm going to overcome anything. There's nothing in this world that is worth more than me. And I'm not going to ever be in the position to look down the barrel of my own weapon ever again. So resiliency is looking at the glass half full, not half empty, and finding a reason every single day to want to get up and look at the fact that I still have a smile on my face, or my kids are still happy and breathing and their needs are met, whatever the case may be. Finding your reasoning to push through that day, because that's all you have. Yesterday's gone. You can't get it back. You can't change nothing about it. Tomorrow's not here, nor is it promised. So what is your reasoning to get through today? That's what resiliency means to me.
So wow. So before we move on and somebody else speaks, I have to say this. Just yesterday, I and I'm being transparent. I broke down yesterday, and I broke down because of what Tammy just said. Like I was literally, you know how you could just sit and I'm a thinker. So I'm sitting and I'm thinking, and I was thinking about today, and I was like, man, today's the last show, and I was thinking like, man, who would have known that I was doing this show? I remember telling KJ a long time ago, hey, I'm thinking about doing this show. This is what it's gonna be about. I was trying to get him on the show for a long time, and I talked to him over almost 2 years ago about this. And I remember last night when I was like just kind of down at a certain point. It was because I thought about this. Exactly what Tammy said. Like I had to think about the times over the past, 7 years when I was going through my mental health journey, what got me through. And I always remember it was two big things that got me through. The kids at my church, and they're dear to my heart, and my own family. What were the two biggest things that really pushed me through. The kids in my church, even though, and people think, most of the people there think I'm a dad because my characteristics and the way I am. But because I've been with those kids, and those kids, it could be days where I'm down. And KJ knows this. My dad, I got the call about my dad passing away when I was at church when we was doing two services. And I remember getting the call, and I remember our youth pastor saying, I'm gonna send you home. And I said, no, I still got another service to do. And when you talk about resiliency, you talk about all this. I look back at that and I say, man, that's what kept me going. Is those kids and my family, my nephews. That's what kept me going. And I keep saying KJ because, man, KJ has been there for me through a lot. Like that's why I say he's like a therapist to me, because when I first met him on to now, like he's always been a go-to person for me. And so I would tell him, I'd be like, man, I just can't do this no more. And when I found myself going at a direction that I thought that I couldn't get out of, and I felt like that direction was headed towards me not being here anymore, he reminded me, the kids at my church reminded me, my nephews and my nieces reminded me, my family reminded me, just the thoughts and the moments. And we're gonna touch on that later, but the moments, the important moments, and living each day. And there'll be days I would come into church and I would be upset, down, but those kids would put a smile on my face. So I just had to, because when Tammy said that, it made me think about last night, and I was just reminiscing on how good God is and how He has brought me to where I'm at now. Because I look back now and everything that I went through these past 7 years, I shouldn't be here today. I should not be here today. But I thank
Amen.
God that He has placed me as a time for a time such as this, to be able to speak on mental health, to be able to get the word out, to be able to have you all on to talk about this. And I don't know where this is going to go in the future, but I do know that I had to be obedient and talk about this because this is an important subject that people don't talk about. So I just wanted to say that because that when she said that, it made me remind myself of just last night of thinking about that. But going on, anybody else?
Yeah. So it's crazy that you chose, like resilience, right? Because oddly enough, resilience is my ray of light, from being one of the founders in Spiral Guide. That's my ray of light, which is resilience. And I chose resilience because, you know, if you're not close to me, then you won't know a whole lot of stuff that I've been throughout my lifetime, as well. Having endured, losing a mom, dad, grandma, granddad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle. So I can definitely relate, you know, you hear people talk all the time, be like, you know, if you lose your mom or if you lose your dad, like, oh man, well, like I know how you feel. Well, do you really know how I feel? Like, have you lost your mom or have you, lost your dad? And like me, I was extremely close to my mom and my dad. And both my parents passed away in the month of December. Mom passed away on the 7th of December. Dad passed away the 28th of December. So my mom passed away right before Christmas and my dad passed away right after Christmas. So the holidays are extremely hard for me. So the thing that gets me through, the thing that gets me through, especially starting right now, because we're getting ready to go into the holidays, like right now, the thing that gets me through is being around family. Like, I am a family person like no other. I freaking love my family. I have to be around, it's a must, because that's the only way I make it. I have to be around family and I have to be around friends, like close friends, somebody that can keep my mind off of, some of the things that, like I may be going through. So I can definitely, understand, Kevin, what you meant by when you were talking about the part about losing, a parent, because that's, if you haven't done that, and if you're close to your parents, man, you just, I mean, it's like a feeling like no other. Let me just say that. And so for me, like during the holiday season, I love being around family. I have to be around friends, laughing, talking, joking, people to just keep my mind off of stuff, because I love having fun and I love being around people. And so that's what helped keep me, intact. Just being around family, and friends, that keeps me sane, shall I say, and to keep my thought process in the right direction. So, but yeah.
Yeah. I'll touch on it real quick. Well, number one, I'll start with resilience for me is obviously a foundation in God, and knowing who you are in Christ. I mean, if you lose that, I mean, you've already lost half the battle right there. But if you have that and stay firm on that, you've gotten victory. And then my second point I would make is I always have to keep reminding myself or find things that remind me who would lose if I lose. Because again, we are all extensions of something, someone. And we have to remember we're placed on this earth to be somebody else's blessing. So somebody will lose if you lose. So I always remind myself and stay grounded in that, like, I got a family. I have a wife, I have a daughter. They lose if I lose. I have people that I oversee. They lose if I lose. I have friends, Kevin. He loses if I lose. Because maybe there's a piece of him that will continue to go on, but there's a certain piece of him that I'm providing as a blessing that he don't get of the benefit of if I lose. And it's the same, with it, you guys. We all are extensions of some vine. And that vine is not going to get nurtured, it's not going to get watered, it's not going to get fed, it's not going to get anything that it properly needs if you lose. So that's kind of one thing that I'll touch on with that, as far as what carries the resilience in me, because I know if I lose, somebody else and some things are losing as well. So
yeah, I'm glad you said that. I was gonna say the same thing. I think knowing that you're here on purpose, that God put you on earth for a purpose, and He's got you planted in purpose. And so wherever it is that He has you, my theory on resilience is there's nothing that we come across that He doesn't already know.
Yeah.
And so He knows it's coming. So He already has solutions. So when I come up against adversity or challenges, my first thought is to go to God in prayer, because this may have been a shock to me, but it's not a shock to Him. And so I just lean into prayer and ask God, you knew this was coming, you got a solution, because I know you are going to work all things together for my good. So I need you to show me how to walk this out. I need you to show me, what to do, how to handle it. Should I be handling it, or should I just sit back and be still? Because not every adversity requires action on our behalf. Sometimes we just have to be still and let God move and be God in our life. So I think purpose is big for resilience, because the more that you understand that you have purpose, the more that you understand that, God is going to keep giving you breath until His purpose in your life is complete. So I would just, encourage people to connect with God if that's, something that you wondered. The book that I read, that both of us read years ago, that kind of was a game changer in our lives, was The Purpose Driven Life. And that's by Rick Warren. And he breaks down, like, very practically from scripture, like what our purpose is and how to get connected to it. And that, one of our greatest purposes is for us to be loved by God, and for us to love God, and to be, in a place where we're loving and connecting with people as well. So that's kind of our belief. That's the reason why we're able to stay planted, stay in our purpose, and be resilient through the different highs and lows of life that come to all of us.
So I want to touch on this because it just made me think of something. We all had to be resilient when COVID happened. When COVID came through, it came through. Man, it came through, and we all have to be resilient on how our lives changed drastically, and people started losing jobs. People started losing things that they were used to doing. But you have to be resilient, and people start thinking of ways. But when people look at it as a bad thing, sometimes we got to look at it as a good thing. I'm not saying the COVID was a good thing, but what I will say in that bad timing, that people got close with their families. People started to learn. A lot of people quit their jobs because they became entrepreneurs, because they found out more about themselves through that. And so they were resilient and trying to figure out, okay, I got laid off. The world is shut down. How can I be resilient to make money, to still keep the lights on in my house, to still be able to feed my family, and they're depending on me? How can I continue to put food on the table? And so I just think about that when I hear that word. I think about, and I look at how COVID really was a turning point for a lot of people, to have to come and be resilient and come out of that and saying, man, like, I was able to start a business. I was able to do this and do that. And I know the Jacksons, they have KBJ, and I know that probably hit hard for them because the world got shut down. So how are you all resilient in that because of COVID?
Yeah, well, for sure it hit our business because one of the things that we do with it is we go out to different cities all over the country and we host basketball clinics and camps. So when COVID hit, all that got shut down, because they weren't letting us outside. So it hit for sure. But then, like I say, it wasn't no surprise to God. So you just lean into prayer and you begin to ask God, how do I pivot? Because there's something that you've given me that I can use to still operate in my purpose in spite of these new circumstances. So we got on podcasting more, and we pivoted and started doing like merch, like shirts and stuff like that for KBJ Academy. We started doing team building retreats, and we would do different things virtually and stuff like that. We still had our book that we wrote that we sold as well. So I just think it's important.
Come on, authors.
Yeah. I just think it's important, like when you go through those different things, like to just keep in mind there's always a pivot. And I think that comes from us being like coaches. Like there's never a moment, like I've been in a game where we were down 20 and I never in that moment thought we were going to lose. Like I always thought there was some kind of adjustment I could make. I could sub somebody in, I could XYZ, I could pivot, and we could still win this game. And we have done those types of things. But I just think that's probably, for sure our faith in God. But also when you see yourself come out of adversities, you start to build confidence and realize I am resilient. This ain't going to stop me. There's got to be a pivot, another move, or an adjustment that I can make.
I'll add on to this. I'll say one word: strategy. I put that in my daily prayer. And you know why? Because the Bible says your gifts will make room for you, right? So how will you pivot if you don't know that, first of all? And then secondly, put that in your prayer. Lord, give me the strategy to pivot. You already know what's happening. You already know what I'm suffering from or what my burden or worry is. Give me the strategy now to gain the victory over my situation. And you'll be surprised that what's already inside of you, maybe it's been lying dormant, but he'll awaken that thing and give you exactly the direction you need to go into with the strategy you need to go into the open doors that he's already provided, because he already going to make the provisions for the vision he given you. So, I was just saying, put that word strategy when you're facing those kinds of situations, because that's what we did. Start praying for strategy, and what was already in us, he just showed us how to go there. Simple as that.
I love it. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about, and I want my brother Greg to touch on, to start us off with this one, moments. Being able to, when you talk about moments, being able to just cherish each one that you have. Man, I'll try to get emotional because, Sheila, I did not know that your dad passed on the 28th. My dad passed on the 28th as well. So when you said that, it kind of just threw me off because I did not know that. But again, I going back to KJ, he used to always say this to me. Think about the good moments that you had with your mom. Think about the good moments you had with your dad. And I had more good moments with my mom than I had with my dad. But the moments I did have with my dad, those were the moments that stuck out to me. And, that's the thing that would get me through some days, is thinking about those moments. So I want us to touch on that because, let's touch on that. Greg?
Yeah, bro. I mean, talking about moments, I'm not sure where, like those are you talking about how you reflect on moments, or like for me,
Yes.
when you said, okay, so, well, I still would say that I believe when we was in Alaska, I had this tag on my thing that said, maximize your moments, right? Because my other brother, I can't remember your name right now, but KJ, right? Boom. He just said strategies, right? So if you already have in mind that I'm gonna always be present, right? Because I've already wrote down this vision with my purpose, my life, and I'm not gonna get deterred. So when I'm in this moment, like right now, there are a million things that's going on, but I have to be in this moment with this panel, you know, right now. Then if I maximize this, I can look back on it. Like you can look back on those good times with your mom and say, man, and you're really looking on it to create a feeling, right? Because you don't want to be in a depressed state, right? Or you don't want to have any regret. So you're reaching at something to like give you something to move forward. Just like the other person who said, like, I'm having a tough issue right now, but I remember when I wanted to kill myself, but I was able to every day step over that. Now this situation right now, if I made it through that other situation, this is just another situation that I got to guard my mind, stay prideful, and move forward. So if we create the moments, right, and doing those things the things that we do repeatedly, if they're the things that like build us up, that grow us, then we'll have a bucket full of times or moments that we can pull from. And then if that doesn't work, we could do what you've been saying you've been doing the whole time, Kevin, is touching someone. You know what I mean? Touching your brother Kevin, touching these sisters, and having them pour back into you, right? Until you're able to pour back into yourself. Because, you know, Kevin, you're amazing. You may not think it right now, right? You might be, but hearing those words, because words, that's where the power is, right? The power's in the words, right? Hearing those words, it'll bridge that gap until you're able to speak those things to yourself. Yeah.
Okay. Appreciate that. Kim.
Yes. So for me, as it relates to moments, of course, I think back to my dad. You know, I'll tell anyone, my dad may not have been the star dad in my life initially, but as time passed, there was a time where I can remember we sat down and had a conversation. And in that conversation, my dad reflected back over my childhood and looked at some of the things that he said when it came to wanting to travel as a family, wanting to just hang around him as a family, and asking him why didn't he spend a lot of time with, you know, myself and my sister. His words were, my job is more important. You know, I just pay the bills. So my job is more important, and you'll get your time when you get your time. But as an adult, he said, I apologize for not being the father I should have been in your life, and I hope you have it in your heart to forgive me. And that's a moment that I've carried with me, because he got to a point in his life that he was able to reflect as an adult and apologize for his mistakes and being accountable in that moment. And in that moment, even though he may not have done what I felt a father should have done in my life, in that moment, he taught me, be accountable for your mistakes, or be accountable for not standing firm in what you believe in as a person, and move forward and grow. And so that's a moment that I keep with me even today, and thinking back and listening at his voice then, because it's been 19 and a half years since I've heard my dad speak. He's been in a quadriplegic coma for that long. So moments reflect everything when you're looking at it from a positive perspective and an area in life to grow from. And that's pretty much what I have as far as those moments. looking at the positive.
Kev, I didn't mean to cut your word, sister.
No, you're good. That's it.
Kev, like you're speaking in one area, but when you first said moments, what I really thought about was how things can change so rapidly, right? Like you know my story. So like one day you're vibrant, agile, doing well, and then the next moment you can't walk, right? Or 1 minute your identity is here, but then the next minute you almost lose your hand, right? So you really, we all have to, I know I've learned that I try to get over things very quickly because it, I from the conversation, I believe everyone is here has a relationship with God, Christ. So life is fleeting, and I know a lot of us want to get old, but you don't know. Like I know we're all up walking right now, but tomorrow that may not be the case. We all in good health right now, but tomorrow we don't know. You know, so it just reminds me of how precious my life is. Like how just to be able to is such a beautiful gift that we do it lazily throughout the day all the time, but we really didn't get life till he breathed into us, right? And I remind myself of that, and that has to be very important. That's what led me to start doing the yoga, and it really like just helped elevate my whole consciousness, really, because sitting still, the good book says, be still and know. And my brother know how hard it is for a person like me to be still, because there's in my mind there's nothing I can't do. Like I'm beautifully and wonderfully made. Like let's go get it done. You know, but that's not your purpose. You know what I mean? You're really abusing yourself right now. You're not using yourself in your purpose. You're just abusing the gifts that you have. So but anyway, that's what I wanted to say, man. Like the moments are right now, and we don't know what tomorrow is. So let's be present. Yeah.
Lavita.
I knew you was gonna come to me when I turned my camera back on. I mean, everybody telling their dad stories and everything. Like, I miss my dad. And, you know, hashtag moments. We used to watch Walker, Texas Ranger every Saturday night at 10 o'clock. Like, that was our thing, you know. And, I mean, it's just, I just hold on to those memories. Like, I just hold on to them. And I miss them. But, yeah. I love this, Kevin. You're so awesome.
Appreciate it. But you know, so I'll say this, and I wanted to touch on moments just because some of you or most of you know, so this Saturday is my mom's birthday. And in the past, it's the whole week I would be in a bad mood. And I didn't really get to learn to be able to deal with her birthday until my brother KJ kept telling me, think about the good moments. Think about doing something that she would love for you to do, that you did for her. Think about doing things for other people. And so I started to act on that, and I started to do things for Mother's Day. I started just doing different things because that made me realize that even though she's physically not here, she's still playing a part in what I was used to doing with her. And so when we talk about moments and we talk about really facing those and dealing with those, life is too precious for us not to cherish every moment. Like Greg said, you know, one of the biggest things is we don't know what tomorrow will bring. And you know, it's mental health can be, happy, it can be down, it can be up. But at the end of the day, when we talk about mental health and we talk about these things that we're talking about, we continue to talk about this, it's the moments for me. It's the moments of being able to have you all on this panel, because I didn't know who all would be on the panel. It was just like, and I'll say this, things happen, and I understand that. But I imagined 12 people to be on here from all my conversations, but things start to happen, and a couple of people, started getting sick and all of that, and so they couldn't be on, and I understood that wholeheartedly, and I had to look back and say, Kevin, think about the moments when they were on, think about the times that they poured into someone, and so I think about all these conversations, and I appreciate you all because of these moments. And so I ask that each of you all, cherish the moments you have with each other, with your family, if your parents are still alive, with your kids, because it's every day is not promised. No day is promised. But at the end of the day, when we look at the moments that we have with each other, when we think about those things help us get through good times, and make us happy. They help us get through bad times. They help us push ourselves to be greater people. It helps with our mental health, overall, to be able to push ourselves beyond the limit that we can even fathom for ourselves. And so I want to um, just really end on this, and I have everybody speak on this, but um, being able to understand that mental health is real, being able to understand that mental health goes through different platforms of sports. It goes through women, men, veterans. Um, it takes its way around everyone. And I even put this in. It even goes through social workers because they have so much that they have to listen to in that profession, and it's so much that they sometimes carry because of the fact of knowing what other people are going through. But understanding that we all have our places, and we all are gifted in our places, and that's why I had you all on specific shows, because I knew that you all would be the perfect people to talk about certain things when it came to mental health. So I want you all to, whatever is on your heart, to just talk about when it comes to mental health, and what you would leave and like to leave, as a moment that when someone watches the show down the road, a memory, down the road, when this comes back up next year as a memory, on my timeline, somebody might look at it and say, "Man, that was a good show." But it's a moment left a year later that will touch somebody that is going through what we talked about this year. So I just want you all to speak on it. Before you do, I want to say thank you to all of you all. I want to say thank you to, Kim, to Bernita and Kevin Jackson, to Levita, to Tammy Walker, to Maestro, to all of my other guests that I had on, to Demario, to my big brother Carcine, to Trill. Man, I'm trying to remember everybody. To Sheila, thank you all for coming on the show. To Treyback, thank you all for being a part of this show. To the Bostons, thank you all for being a part of this show. I would not have been able to do this show if you all wouldn't have came on. And I've had, people tell me, man, this has been a great show. Thank you. Some people have said some of these conversations have helped them in their own lives. So what you all say tonight, what you've all said before, has helped someone. Even if it's just one person, but it's helped someone that you don't even know. and it might be helping somebody else. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing this. Again, I had to be obedient and talk about mental health because it was important to me, and I needed to branch out as I continue to branch out and talk about mental health. So your final thoughts, your final words on mental health, and go from there. Thank you all for being on this first season of Coffee and Conversation. I look forward to more things. I'm trying to get on more podcasts and try to do more things. But I appreciate you all from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate each of you all. So your final thoughts. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I actually started typing it in the chat to you to say, in this moment, I want to say, Kevin, I really appreciate you for allowing me to have the opportunity to be a part of this platform, to even speak, also to even just in tonight alone, because I even shared with you before getting on that today was a challenge for me. Like, it was so challenging, and hearing what Benita and her husband, what they said was pivot is a nugget that I have to take away from the conversation tonight, along with some other nuggets, but that's a key thing based on what I had to deal with today and what I have to face tomorrow. And also it's just reminding me of things that I've said, that nothing is too hard for God. Stand firm and press through the mark. You get to live to see another day, be it his will. And then the last thing, just don't overthink. And that's easier said than done. But a part of mental health is overthinking. Sometimes we can be our own worst enemy because we overthink a situation. And if we just take time to write out our thoughts, relook at what we're thinking, and try to analyze why we're thinking what we're thinking, and try to put a positive spin on it. I always take a negative and turn it to a positive, because again, it could be worse. And just knowing that there are resources out here for someone, don't be afraid to reach out. Kevin, you have been a blessing, not only to me, but I'm sure others, that you have put this out there and started to pave a way for people that are afraid, that know of you, or anyone that's on this platform, that it's okay to speak out. You don't have to be afraid. So thank you.
Awesome. I'll say, well, first of all, Kevin, thanks for having my wife and I on. This has been a blast. Nice meeting all of you tonight. I've learned actually a lot, because I do try to talk about staying in the moment. I try to take nuggets or find things I can learn from whoever is in my presence, because you never know. If you always saying it's just my opinion, if you're not learning, you're not living. Because if you know it all, then what's the point, right? So you guys have been a blast as well. But I would leave people with this. Number one, breathe. Breathe, give it to God, and just kind of remember, even if you are the person that is about to help someone or needing to help someone, and you're suffering from mental health, whichever the situation may be, just remember that there's also healing in helping someone as well. So with that being said, I would encourage you to, when someone is thirsty, give them a drink. When you run across someone that is hungry, feed them. And remember, my wife said a little while ago, we are on this earth only for a short time. This is not our home. But while we're here, we're meant to be impactful in more ways than just giving someone money, giving someone, physical food or physical drink to eat. Like, there's so many different things that you can serve your purpose and serve into someone, especially when maybe what's going on with them, something mental. If you can identify it and see it, and especially if that's so much of a burden for somebody, hey, be that shoulder for them to lean on and have them as a release. But first you got to breathe. So I'll leave you with that.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of piggyback on that. Some of the things that we experience from a mental health perspective really is some of us not taking care of ourselves physically. Mm-hmm. And so we have to, I heard somebody say earlier, like you're not getting enough rest or you're not eating all day. Like there's a lot of science that backs up and research that backs up like how that can throw you off chemically. And so you don't want to put yourself in a bad space physically and then it affects you mentally. We even tell our players at our school that we coach, statistically injuries go up when you don't get enough sleep, when you're not eating, when you're not hydrated, and your moods drastically change when you're not eating good food. You're putting a bunch of junk in your body. So I would kind of leave people with that. Control what you can control, and then connect with resources and tools or people or counselors or life coaches or, whoever, maybe a pastor at church. Connect with people that can help you get through that stuff that you need a little bit more support with, and don't ever give up on fighting to be your best self. I think that that's probably, the greatest challenge that, I kind of seek every single day is I want to be the best version of myself today, better than yesterday, and not just for me, for my husband, for my daughter, for my family. They deserve for me to show up and be whole and not be broken. Because if I'm broken, I'm going to have a hard time helping them. And it's okay to be broken, but it should only be for a season. We shouldn't be broken forever. I just believe that God can heal us. So, Kevin, we love you. We're super proud of you. We know you're going to go on and do great things and keep impacting people in such a positive way by sharing your testimony, because we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by just sharing our testimony, by hearing that you overcame what you overcame. That encourages people, especially us. So thank you.
Kevin, there's a few things I would like to say. One, I appreciate you so much for allowing this opportunity, but you have no idea actually how much I needed you today. And the whole panel, and it's been such a blessing to be here with all of you. I apologize that you can see I'm driving. Myself and COVID right now, and unfortunately, because I have COVID, I was unable to go see my surgical oncologist yesterday because I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I had to go see the oncologist and they had to cancel because of the COVID yesterday. So I had to drive 2 hours away to Charleston to go get an injection to help prevent it from spreading until I can go see oncology next month. So I was actually in a space that I really needed y'all. So you made it a point when you said social workers, need help too. I am a social worker. I provide mental health. I had clients today. So yes, it's always good to have a therapist who has a therapist, but today I had y'all, and I want to say thank you for that. But I also wanted to put out this little bit of information. If you find yourself in a place where you're in a mentally dark place, you're contemplating suicide or any of that, pick up your phone and text 741-741. That is the national suicide hotline. You don't have to call anymore. You can text 741-741 and somebody will text back immediately with you and get the help that you need, because sometimes it's hard to just talk. Now we have the option to text as well. So I did want to put that out there. Again, that number is 741-741. You can text it 24/7, 365, 366 on a leap year. But I definitely want to say, always get up every day, no matter how hard it is. And just look for one little thing that shimmers, one little reason that your glass is half full instead of half empty. Because yes, moments, that's all we have. That is all we have. And we have to be resilient through those moments. And all it takes is one small thing that's worth being resilient for, no matter what your obstacles and barriers may be. So with that, I love you, Kevin. It was so great to meet all of you guys. And, you know, I ask that the universe sends you light, love, blessings, prosperity, and good health.
Bless. My brother, Kev. Hey, this is beautiful, my friend. I'm not going to belong to time because everybody has said some really powerful things and given some really good tips for us to grow by. And I would just say we all grow what we grow, what we go through, we grow through, right? And I believe just having the mindset of just understanding that life is like this. It's a sine wave. It's going to be up and down. We're going to go through seasons. So if we understand that and then realize that in the beginning was the word, if I just can hold to a good word, no matter where you get it from. And I believe it's best, part of my self-care is in the morning, I give myself a good word. So it sets my day. So I may not be able to reach Kevin. I may not be able to reach my other friends or my parents, but if you can give yourself a good word, it'll transform your mind and set you on a good course. So just always have something in your toolbox that can shift your atmosphere when you're in one of those down moments. And I believe it'll pull you through the other side. Again, Kevin, man, you're awesome. Just knowing you for like almost 20 years now, from Alaska to now, like, and knowing where we both come from, I'm very proud to be your brother, not biological, but still. And man, blessings to you and to where this will go further.
Lavita.
Thank you, Kevin. I just want to say thank you again for having me. This has been a pleasure. And, you know, my final thoughts would be love yourself. Love yourself enough to not allow someone else to make you feel less than what you should feel. And if you're doing the best you can, do the best you can. Don't let anybody feel like your small baby steps aren't progress. And I want to say, like how Miss Sheila said, you know, I was a whole person before you met me. Like, don't change who I am, because that messes with your mind too. And stress is linked to the immune system. So don't allow anything to stress you out that will cause your body to just start shutting down the immune system and everything. So be happy, find your peace.
All right. I appreciate y'all. This is the end of season 1 of Coffee and Conversation. I'm looking forward to season 2. Season 2 will be about relationships. So I'm going to dig deep into different relationships. I can't wait. I'm going to have some guests on from older couples to younger couples talking about relationships. It's going to get deep. Some probably don't need to have the kids in, but I'm looking forward to season 2 when I come back. Taking a break, but I will be back, and I'll definitely put out the information when season 2 will start. But I appreciate you all. So those who don't know, my line brother from Cyro 5 Military Fraternity Incorporated, Travion Amir. Thank you, my brother. Thank you. He's been the one. If you see all of the words going across, he's the one who's done everything this year. If y'all remember from Conversation 1, that was me telling my testimony, but it was all jacked up, and I asked him to help. And from Conversation 2 to now, he has done a superb job. So thank you. If you need something, if you need graphics or something, he is the real deal. He actually did my logo that you see behind me. So he is the real deal when it comes to that. He won't put himself out there, but I will. So thank you all. Last time saying it for tonight, for this season, whether it's late at night, early morning, early afternoon, I'm getting it mixed up, but a cup of Joe and a conversation will always get you right. This is Coffee and Conversation with Kevin Smith. Have a good night. See you season 2.